So, hello Aaron. The first question actually goes that do you remember when you heard metal music for the first time?
Yeah, the first time I heard metal music, my grandma was German and she had like German cable television at her house. So they were like putting Rammstein and stuff like that on German TV before, you know, it got to England and stuff. That was like the first time I like saw and visualized metal. But my dad like listened to Motorhead and Black Sabbath and all that stuff, so it's always been in my life.
So what was in like metal music that sort of like caught your attention first?
In metal music, probably Slipknot's first self-titled album, that one. But what actually caught my attention was, I've said it in a bunch of interviews before, a song called Kim by Eminem. It's like the most violent music ever. It's not metal, but it's really violent, you know, and that's what kind of got me into violent music. And then I heard Slipknot after that, and I was just like, yeah, I like it, you know, when it's really heavy and angry.
So what made you become a musician and pick up a microphone?
I used to watch Moonwalker, you know, the movie about Michael Jackson when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then I just kind of forgot about it. And then when I got into metal, I think it was seeing Mitch Looker and his stage presence, and he was like a god, you know. I was just like, holy shit. And that's the first time that I was like, I want to be like that guy, you know. But maybe I started screaming before that, I'm not sure. I used to practice to like Job for a Cowboy and stuff like that.
I was actually going to ask you next that were there like some specific songs that you first tried to like mimic yourself before developing your own voice, or how did that happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was young at the time. I listened to the Bring Me the Horizon EP. I can't remember what it's called. This Is What the Edge of Your Seat Was Made For, something like that.
Yeah.
Like someone had sent me one of the songs off of that EP, and I started trying that in my bedroom. Entombment of a Machine, maybe. Job for a Cowboy, and also I can't remember the Whitechapel EP, something Defilement or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do that, and that was when I kind of discovered that I liked more of the lower vocals, and that was like better for me. So I was really trying to replicate Phil Bozeman's voice at that time.
So did it take like long time to figure out the right technique? Were you like losing your voice in the early days, or?
yeah, definitely. I remember the first like band practice that I had with. I got invited to do like one band practice, and I was just, you know, shouting whatever, and I could taste blood in my mouth, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but yeah. And also, who else? Through the Eyes of the Dead. What was the vocalist's name? And then he started Fit for an Autopsy afterwards. It's the original vocalist of Fit for an Autopsy. I can't remember his name, but his voice is incredible, very underrated. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't have a band anymore, but his vocals also, I was just like, wow. Sucks that I can't remember his name though. But yeah, like him and Phil Bozeman, I was just like, yeah. Low ones like feel better for me. I had my tonsils taken out when I was a kid, so like the back of my mouth's kind of large, so it's kind of hard for me to like get the high vocal, you know, come out. Yeah, low vocals all the way, baby.
So, but you like discovered that very early on that lows is like your sort of like strong point.
Yeah, mostly I just felt that I noticed that it was more comfortable for me to do that. When I try and get into the higher range, that's where I start to like feel a bit of pain and stuff. So I just kind of stayed where I felt comfortable. And I can't remember where I read it or saw it, but I think I was like reading something about how to do vocals before YouTube and stuff. And it was like, don't try and copy anyone, you know, you have your own scream. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I just kind of went with whatever felt comfortable for me, and it sounded okay. So
was like Betraying the Martyrs your like first proper band, or were you in bands like before Betraying as well?
I had one local band called For Untold Reasons. I think you can find this stuff somewhere online on YouTube. And then we did like 2 EPs or something like that. And then Betraying the Martyrs was like my first real band, yeah.
So when you started touring with the Martyrs, were you ready as a vocalist to do like show after show after show?
That was a big question. I was like, holy shit, am I ready for this? But yeah, even until this day, I find that the more I do vocals, the easier it gets. Like if I take a long break and then I come back to it, I find it hard to get into the rhythm and I need to break my voice in. But if we go on tour for 2 months, 3 months straight, I can like scream every day without warming up. I don't do that, but if I wanted to, I could. Yeah, it's breaks that gives me the hardest time.
And it was that already in the beginning like that?
Yeah, I was really worried about it because I'd never done more than like 2 or 3 shows in a row, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then, yeah, it's fine. Just get some good sleep. That's like the biggest thing.
I was actually going to ask you next, that did you actually learn something from those first tours?
Yeah, get some good sleep. That's so important. I've very, very rarely lost my voice. I think it's happened like maybe once or twice. And it happened in 2019. I was touring Asia with Betraying the Martyrs. We were doing like, you know, going to bed at like 3 a.m. and then waking up at 5 a.m. to catch a flight to fly to China. And it was just flights every day and there was like not enough sleep. And yeah, I lost my voice for like a show or two. And it made me realize how important getting sleep is, you know, super important.
So do you have a way to prepare for a show? Do you have any kind of like warm-up routines? Do you do scales or any type of like warm-up?
Yeah, I do like scales. I've seen like a bunch of routines online and stuff, and I just kind of take the bits that I feel are necessary for me. I don't do all of them, you know. I do some scales and I do some like tongue rolls, and then I do this kind of thing. And if I have like a solid constant vibration in my throat, I know it's good. Yeah, it really depends how I'm feeling, you know.
If it's a longer tour, does it require like less and less and less warming up?
Yeah, for me it does, yeah. Like when I'm on tour after a week, I can just kind of, you know, get that vibration. I can just, you know, maybe warm up for 10 minutes and already get like that voice that I want to get. But for the first show, I have to do like 30, 40 minutes of warm up, you know.
Are there like some specific foods or drinks that you want to have before the show, that you have felt that they help you with the singing, or on the opposite side, something that you don't want to take, that you felt that it harms your vocal cords somehow?
I hear a lot about dairy products like cheese and stuff like that. I've never felt that really makes a difference. But I deal with acid reflux big time. So anything spicy, acidic, anything that's going to create any like abrasion and acidity and like in my throat, I try to avoid. I try to avoid eating like 1.5 to 2 hours before the show. Yeah.
You have released like 4 albums with Betraying the Martyrs.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So if you could pinpoint some of the albums, which do you feel that were the albums that you took a big step forward as a singer, learned something new about yourself?
Probably the first one, because before that I hadn't, you know, recorded, like I said, like 2 EPs, and both of them we did in like one day, you know. So recording that was the first time I was really like, you know, doing something kind of professional. Yeah, so I discovered a lot about myself then. And then when we started 1056, I was able to like broaden my horizons because, you know, it was more like free. I could do whatever I want. Yeah, so this past like 2 years, 3 years, I started to implement lots of vocal techniques that just wouldn't have fit in my old band's music, you know. So yeah, a lot of techniques I've learned like on doing 1056, like rapping and just different stuff like that, you know. I can really feel myself like expanding as an artist, and it's crazy to say that at like 30 plus, you know. I started at like 31 to do different vocals. It's so weird.
Have you taken like any vocal lessons?
No.
Never?
Never, no. Not proud of that. Maybe you should. Maybe for singing, like I'd like to do some singing. Maybe it's an ego thing, you know. But Matteo from, he used to sing in Novelist, and now he's got a band called Salem. He taught me some stuff, but it's all about confidence, you know, like finding yourself in the studio and being in front of the engineer and maybe your bandmates and trying something for the first time. That's I think that's like the hardest part.
You already touched this topic a bit, but are there like some new things vocally on the debut album of 1056, like Downer, which you haven't never done before?
Yeah, the rapping stuff. Like the kind of lower spoken stuff, like the Ghostman kind of voice. I did a little bit at the end of, on the last Betraying the Martyrs album. There's some like higher vocals that I do that I didn't really do before. Some like more open mouth, like, you know, just different accents and stuff that I did on the single Good Morning. Each single, like, I'm really trying to step it up and learn something new. I don't think I'll ever go to like the pig noises and, you know, the demon voices that everyone's like sprinkling around. You know, I really want to stick to having my own style and not jump on any bandwagon or whatever. But yeah, I try and bring something new every time.
Do you have a specific way to hold the microphone when you perform?
Yeah. Well, can I take this off? Yeah, so let's say this is like, you know, a slightly larger microphone. I hold it like this, and then I have my finger right there, and I kind of place it on my lip, just so I don't bash it into my teeth, because I have like fake teeth, kind of, or, you know, like I have chipped teeth. So I just hold it there. Like, and it's also a good position, you know, it's not cupping the mic because it's not really covered. Yeah, but it's just a nice position, you know.
What do you think about like cupping the microphone? Does it matter for you?
What if I see other vocalists? No, I don't think it matters. But I mean, you know, when you get into the territory of like, you know, doing that kind of stuff, yeah. But I mean, there's so many techniques that people use. I don't judge anybody, you know. And there's some vocalists that are just like, and I'm like, wow, you know, that's real power. But you know, I'll just stick to holding it. It just kind of comes naturally. I've never like warped the sound with how I hold it. It's just how it's comfortable for me, you know.
So what were your parents' reactions when they heard you screaming your lungs out?
It's funny you say that. I was thinking about that, actually. Yeah, when I used to practice to Job for a Cowboy, like one day my mum comes up, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, Mum, it's not a phase. And actually, like 20 years later...
It's not a phase?
Yeah, like 15 years later. Yeah, it's not a phase at all.
Any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist?
I'm trying not to throw any shade, but, you know, there's like... trends that come through, you know. Try not to hop on any trends, like feel the need to do the most crazy animal voices, you know, or the highest vocals or the lowest. Just try and do something that kind of flows with the music and adds something that's going to benefit the instruments, you know. I feel like a lot of young vocalists feel a lot of pressure to be as technically advanced as like machines like Will Ramos and all those guys. They're like crazy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like people should just do something that connects with them. And, you know, I like to hear vocals where you can hear the lyrics and you can really feel like some kind of emotion. So, yeah, just do something that makes you feel like you're expressing yourself the way you should be.
Be like your own self.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I took inspiration from lots of different vocalists, but over time, there was a point where I was like, whatever, you know, I sound like this, I can't sound like that guy even if I wanted to, you know, and I'm not prepared to put in the work to sound like somebody else. So, I mean, there's always going to be a point in your career, if that's what you're looking to do, you know, where you're just going to find your own sound. So I think it's better from the get-go just to, you know, feel like yourself, and if it sounds good, then people will catch on and start to respect you for doing something original.
Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you, Arto, man. Always a pleasure.